Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today is Debra Hallisey. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super excited because you're an author and we're going to be talking about a relationship contract for caregivers. And I'll tell you, when I saw that come through my email, I went, that's different. So I think this is important. When I got started really thinking about it, it's probably really important for people. So what inspired you to write your caregiver relationship contract, and how did your personal experience basically shape the book, or, to really, figure it out?
Yeah, well, it's so interesting because I started out as a blogger, and in that blog, I really captured our family story. I was my dad's caregiver for a year, and then my mom's caregiver for 8 or 9. I mean, a long time caregiver. And I started capturing our story, and certain blog posts resonated with the readers, like talking about caregiving changes every relationship in your life, everyone. Talking about how I had to learn to use specific language with my mother so that she didn't feel attacked, so she didn't feel like I was parenting her. I learned that I had to for my own sanity, figure out how to have some kind of self-care and what would that look like. So there was about 5 or 6 blog posts that just resonated with people, including one. I wrote it on her birthday, and its title is "Today I Will Be Her Daughter and Not Her Caregiver." Because we get so involved in that role that we lose whatever relationship, spouse to spouse or mother daughter, or whatever it is. And so an opportunity came to speak at a conference, and I thought, that's my topic, there's the book, and that's how it got written.
Awesome. And so difficult themes, are basically conversations, are a key theme in your book. So what advice do you give caregivers that are navigating these tough discussions with family members about expectations and responsibilities? And before you answer that, I will tell you, somebody I know and love, a friend of mine, I've known her since she was a kid, came to me and said, my parent is having a very difficult time with the other parent. It's gotten really bad. So how do you let's talk to the listeners about that, because I think this is really important.
100%. I personally think caregiving for a spouse is tougher than caregiving for a parent. And the reason why I say that is we have this expectation that at some point we're going to lose our parents. But spouse to spouse, you have an expectation of what your life how you're going to live out your life as you're a retiree. And if one of you gets ill, if one of you gets the diagnosis of dementia, all of your plans are out the window. And so reconciling not just what it means to be a caregiver and all the things that goes into that, but reconciling, oh my God, my life is not going to be the way I planned it, is so, so hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. And one of the things that we can do as caregivers, whether it's spouse to spouse or child to adult, is treat them like children. And without the diagnosis of dementia, we have to be very, very careful not to treat our care partner like children, because they are functioning adults, right? Now, with the diagnosis of dementia, it gets a little more complicated, because at some point you can't have conversations, right? You have to do what you need to do to keep them safe and keep your life going. I'll say one more thing, and this is in what I've written, and it goes back to a book written by David Solie called how to communicate with your senior. And that is the language that we use is so incredibly important. And I have kind of this formula where it's always an I statement. I'm tired, hurt, exhausted, whatever it is. And then, or I'm worried. I'm worried about you getting on a ladder because what if you fall? And then the next thing is never something they can answer yes or no, but it's where would you like to put the dishes you use all the time? Or a choice. We can put them here or here so it's easier to get to. So there's really a way you can talk to the person you're caring for that still gives them authority. And I think that's really important.
Awesome. And so you discuss in the book the idea of an unspoken contract between caregivers and their loved ones. So, how can caregivers recognize and redefine this contract, so to speak, to create healthier boundaries? And would you say that dementia family caregivers, what would you say to dementia family caregivers about their relationship contract? And is that different or more difficult, for other caregivers when they have a different diagnosis?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with every relationship has unspoken expectations. It's the way you're in relationship with one another. And the clearest example I can give you of that is somebody loses a significant amount of weight. And all of a sudden, they don't want to go to dinner 3 days a week. They don't want to go to the movies and have a bunch of popcorn, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. That way of being together, going out socially, was part of that unspoken contract. And when the person lost weight, they know they didn't want to put that in jeopardy. So now they're saying no to dinner. No, I don't want to do this, no that. Well, you've now changed the relationship, right? Without talking about it. So having that conversation of, I love you. I still want to spend time with you, but I can't go out to dinner 3 nights a week because of this. And so let's talk about what else we can do, or maybe limit it to once a week or once a month, whatever it is. So if you think about all of your relationships, how are you together? What are you willing or unwilling to do for somebody? How are you socially? What defines your social activities together? And how do you validate one another? Right? All of those are part of that unspoken contract. So if you think about those questions and think about a scenario, you suddenly understand how maybe you can have a conversation. Now, if you're a dementia family caregiver, in that first stage, you can still have those conversations. And I will tell you the most important ones to have are the ones, Kim, you get involved in. Do we have a will? Do we have a POA? Do we have a healthcare directive? How do you want to live out your life? Because there's going to come a point in this disease where you cannot have those conversations. And the relationship contract changes from between you and the person you're caring for, and the contract is with yourself. What do I need? Who validates me? What social activities can I still do, whether it's modifying what I used to do with my partner, or whether it's something completely different and not feel guilty about it? And how do I want to be treated? It needs to be with yourself. And as caregivers, we don't start there. And particularly as dementia caregivers, you're always putting yourself last.
Yes, I got to see this firsthand in my family as well. My grandmother declined. She had a lot of health issues, and as she started to decline, he retired to take care of her, and then didn't take care of himself at all. Then he ended up with a stroke. So I'm very passionate about telling caregivers, you got to take care of yourself, or you're going, and I'm blunt, or you're going to die first.
Right.
And it shocks a lot of my clients when I tell them that. I said, but you don't understand. That's the reality. We see that. So that's why you have to take care of yourself. And because it's so, so, so important. And also, what I see a lot of times with clients, is that they never have the conversation, and then, when you start thinking about having that conversation with yourself, there's a whole lot of guilt and shame that go along with that. And then we got families that have relatives, but they don't help. Nobody helps, nobody does anything, so, or just maybe one person out of many, and so then a lot of people they don't know how to ask for help, which makes it even worse.
I
And
will
so,
say, I'm so sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
no, that's fine. Go ahead.
I will say that when people talk about self-care, they so often focus on the tasks. It's not the tasks that will make us ill. It's the emotions around the tasks, the
Yeah.
resentment, the guilt, the anger, the frustration. The task is minimal compared to how emotional this journey is and what a toll that takes on us.
Yeah, definitely. So how can caregivers balance their own emotional well-being while still managing the needs of their loved ones?
I think there's several things. First of all, first thing is, particularly for dementia family caregivers, secrets will kill you. When people first get that diagnosis, there is shame around it. It's like what people used to do. He has cancer. Like it was whispered, like it was shameful, like you did something to bring it on. And the same is true with a dementia diagnosis. The problem with keeping that secret is you never ask for help. And you don't have to tell the world, but you need one person at least that you can confide in, that you can say, I'm going crazy, I need help, whatever it is. And in the beginning of that, in those early stages, the person you're caring for may be very adamant about don't tell anybody, but you have to either disregard that later on, or you have to say, I can't, I need help, because that secret can kill you. The other thing, particularly I find in the older generation, is they're like the we can do it generation. We can do it. Privacy is top of the line. Nobody needs to know our business. And my vows say I'm in it for good and bad, for sickness and in health.
Yeah.
You can still honor all those things and ask for help.
Yes.
And I talk about family of origin versus family of choice. And family of origin is your family, right? The
Yes.
brothers, the sisters, whatever. Every child has a different childhood. And because of that, you may want them to do something that they are simply incapable of doing because of childhood stuff. And you will drive yourself crazy if you're going to demand of them something that they can't do or don't want to do for whatever reason. So look at the circle that surrounds you, that family of choice, and you will absolutely find people that will help you both physically and mentally and emotionally. I always say, they say, oh, go to dinner, get a mani-pedi, get it, whatever. That's nice. But if you're not setting boundaries and you're not asking for help, you're not going to get self-care, because for me, those are the foundations.
Yeah. I was glad that you didn't ask me which one of my kids was what, because I already know.
Right?
I
Right?
mean, I know, and so, but I've been very blunt with my kids, because I told them I don't want you taking care of me at all. You just find me a place, shove me, visit, but whatever. But I don't want you taking care of me. And I've been very emphatic about it, and I get some pushback from them, and I'm like, no, that's not what I want. I need y'all to be happy and doing your thing, and just shove me somewhere, somewhat decent, please, and so if it gets that bad, I don't want you doing it. But I have so many people that are like, oh, for God's sakes, don't put me in a nursing home. And you think, well, that's a great option, but do you understand what the option is? How much that cost, to stay at home? I mean, it costs, 4 times as much to stay at home as it does to go to a facility. So it's sometimes it's those hard decisions that you just like, you just have to kind of make them. And, after that, sometimes it's a hope and a prayer,
Yeah.
and the rest of it. And so, well, tell our listeners what's one key takeaway from your book that you hope every caregiver will apply to their journey.
One key takeaway. Um, I'm going to go back to for a moment, don't keep secrets. And that ties into what you were just saying around, one of the things I said to my mom, my mother was, I said for years, you're only taking me out of this house feet first, right? Like I'm going to be dead when I leave here.
Yeah.
And when my dad died and I became her caregiver, I was very honest with her. And it ties into secrets and it ties into emotions, because we don't want the person we're caring for to feel vulnerable, to be upset, right? So we try and make it better. We try and make it okay. And too often we promise things we cannot be sure we can keep. And so I never said to my mother, don't worry, you're going to stay here. What I said was, Mommy, I need you to stay strong and be able to use your cart. I used to call it her go-kart. Because if you ever go in a wheelchair full time, you cannot stay in this house. We cannot retrofit it. We don't have the money to retrofit the doorways and everything it would take for you to be in a wheelchair and in this house. So I need you to stay strong. And so that was something for her to hold on to and to do in her life, to be able to just hold on to it and say, I can do this. Now we had other discussions about that. Like one time she was really complaining about her caregiver. And I said, no problem. We can sell the house and you can move into community. And she was like, well, I'm not ready for that. I'm like, then okay. Then let's talk about how we make this situation better with your caregiver. But COVID did me in. And after COVID, I said to my mother, we have to do something different. My health is really at risk. I started to have heart palpitations.
Oh,
And
no.
she said to me, yeah, as only a mother can, your health is not worth it. Let's talk. And God love her, she went into a community down by me and I didn't have an hour commute any longer.
Yeah.
So it's ongoing conversations and honesty and not keeping secrets.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. And so it's such good advice. And so,
Thank
Deborah,
you.
thanks so much for being on the show today. And if people want to find you, how do they do that?
So the best way is to email me, and that's hallisdl@gmail.com. Or the website is Advocate for Mom and Dad, and that's completely spelled out. ADVOCATEFORMOMANDDAD. It's a long thing to type. I'm sorry.
Yeah, mine is too. So don't feel bad. And so, all right. Thanks so much for being on the show. And we look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.